So this program, despite all the criticisms I have of it, was good for the time. Hi guys, it's Katla. Welcome to my 19th episode. Throughout the pandemic, as someone who has worked in a food bank, I have become very well aware of the USDA food box program used as part of TEFAP, the Emergency Food Assistance Program. We are finally getting an update to the USDA food box program from the Trump era boxes to the Biden era boxes, and this news was announced recently, so I figured, as someone very well aware of this program, very familiar with it, both in practice with distributors behind the scenes, and frankly, as boots on the ground distributing these boxes, I figured I can talk about it a bit today. Let's get into it. For those of you who are returning, welcome back. I'm grateful for all of you here. And for those of you who are new, please make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, as I am trying to upload frequently, but life gets in the way. I don't really stick to a schedule. Turn on notifications so you won't miss a thing. I am a public health communicator, which is a type of science communicator that also discusses the social issues, philosophy, and applications of public health. I'm not a medical doctor or a public health official or a public health expert. I really just like talking about this. It's what I study. In addition, throughout the pandemic, as I said, I've worked in food banks. I very much care about food insecurity causes, especially when it comes to the relationship between malnutrition and infectious disease. So as someone looking for something to do in this pandemic, I found it very much important to support this kind of cause. Anyway, so let's get into this. So the USDA food box program of the Trump era COVID relief was called the Farmers to Families program. This was a way to relieve the issues of food waste as restaurants, stadiums, amusement parks, schools, public cafeterias were closing down, but these suppliers to these different institutions, businesses, had plenty of food that, again, it was just going to go to waste. There was no one to eat it because we weren't having school lunches, we weren't having ball games or whatever. We weren't going to restaurants. So this program, despite all the criticisms I have of it, was good for the time. It was what was needed in the moment. However, it wasn't going to last forever, and many of the benefits of reducing food waste and helping reduce food insecurity with this program were really diminished by the fact that there was plenty of problems, to say the least. There was very high prices, there was extreme preferential treatment and rewarding contracts, there was uneven distribution where small, kind of tended to be religious organizations would get a disproportionate amount of boxes for their region, their county, while a secular organization that served a significantly larger population, covered a significantly larger area, would get very few boxes. Since these were actual physical boxes of food, I'll cut in a picture of what this box looks like from the distribution I did this morning here. Because this is a physical box of food, people had to go to distributions. That's why you saw on the news, saw on Twitter, those lines that were miles and miles and miles long of people waiting for food banks. There's the problem with making people go and get the physical food boxes rather than doing something like increasing funding to SNAP or WIC, food stamps, women, infants and children, nutritional program, loosening those restrictions even so that more people could qualify. The fact that this program has gone on for a year is a bit difficult. Anyway, this program is ending. The funding will be freed up again to go somewhere else. We're hearing about this program and now because the most recent contract renewal is going to occur mid-April, and then these contracts, if not renewed, are going to run out in mid-May. And just a little more review, because I always just kind of have to rant about this. This program was good at the time. Food banks are not only for feeding people, but for reducing food waste. That's why, in addition to federal food aid, state food aid, a food bank like mine will also use corporate donors such as Amazon, large grocery store chains, wherever else, to help feed our people, to help our distributions. With the food waste that was going to happen with all the restaurants, stadiums, amusement parks, entertainment venues closing, this was a good program. Except for sometimes these boxes were really, really bad. There would be spoiled food, spoiled produce in these boxes. They would be poorly made. Sometimes the bottoms of these boxes would just fall out because whatever issue with the manufacturing never taped to the bottom of the boxes. And sometimes, again, these were sometimes just poorly packed. These had, like, for a couple weeks at one point, we had these boxes at my food bank so the boxes change once every couple weeks, sometimes week by week. But at one point we had these boxes that were huge, but only filled about a third. And on one end of the box was a gallon of milk. On the other end was a dozen eggs. So if you accidentally tipped it the slightest bit, gallon milk, raw eggs, just destroyed. Not fun. I was like coming home with like raw egg all over my leg for a couple weeks. It was so gross. It was horrible. And also the thing is, with how I said these boxes were big but only filled a third, so they were heavy, but they weren't too heavy for me. I am a strong person. I love the physical side of working with food banks. It's a really good workout and it's just really rewarding, but my arms are too short for these boxes. So that made it really difficult to like carry something. And I would even be coming home with like cuts down my arms because of the cardboard. And like I just couldn't get a good grip. It was just the worst. Yeah. So anyway, these boxes had produce, milk, eggs, meat, cheese, and they came from various suppliers. So yeah, Trump era, Farmers to Families program, coming to end now. So for the Biden era, what are we looking at now? We are looking at specifically produce-only boxes, which is great to make these more accessible to people who are vegetarian, lactose intolerant, can't eat certain meats for religious reasons, dairy allergies, which is different from lactose intolerant. Food box programs tend to be a one-size-fits-all program. When we're trying to address food deserts, it's better to focus on the availability of produce. So by having a USDA food box program that is mainly produce, we are making them more accessible to everyone who can eat them, while also focusing on the availability of fresh produce in food deserts. Anyway, these boxes are going to be 10 to 12 pounds a piece, which makes it a lot easier both for the distributors, because right now the food boxes can be 30 to 40 pounds a piece. This is also good for people receiving the boxes so that they can carry them home, essentially. Not everyone is able to carry such large amounts, and these were just huge, unwieldy, heavy boxes. New boxes, 10 to 12 pounds a piece. They will have 3 to 5 pounds of fruits, 3 to 5 pounds of vegetables, and then the rest is going to be filled up with at least 2 locally grown items. The USDA is fully reevaluating who gets contracts. They aren't giving any special preferences to people who had contracts from the previous year, and they're just making it fully available to all food distributors, which is great because there was definitely some funny stuff with certain campaign donors potentially getting contracts while others were not. There's going to be stronger oversight to make sure that people are actually fulfilling these with high quality products and not just spoiled food and boxes that are going to fall out the bottom and cause nightmares. The new food box program will be funded through the end of the fiscal year, which is the end of September. And I'm excited to see how this will go starting mid-May. When I talk about my food bank work, one thing I really just always have to push, if you want to help out with food banks, the best thing you can donate is money, and the second best is time. Food banks are their own miniature warehouses at this point. Like, we've gone through a lot with the COVID-19 pandemic. So what you may think is just a little single room at one point only feeding like 50 families a week pre-pandemic can now be feeding thousands of people and actually have a huge operation. So by donating money, you are allowing us to upgrade our equipment, especially refrigeration units. Many times the main restriction on what we can do is the amount that we can store. And so it's great to have money. It feels a bit weird to say, it feels a bit greedy to say that sometimes, but money will help us determine exactly what we need to do. Additionally, we can order food in bulk, and so that keeps costs down as we increase the amount of people we are serving. I live in a large area, like a large metropolitan area. It is very population dense. So there are, like, within a few square miles, just tons and tons of people that need food. If you live in a more rural area that's more sparse, more spread out, you may want to contact your food bank directly to see if they actually want you to buy food for them and bring it in rather than doing these large orders. It's especially if they serve smaller amounts of people. And also work at a food bank, volunteer at a food bank. It's really fun. It's been the main way I socialized during the pandemic. Like, that's part of the reason why I started volunteering, was because I was just getting kind of stir crazy at home, and I'm like, I want to do something out there. Like, I want to do something safe, socially distant, and social, and got to my food banks. And working at a food bank arguably has changed my life. I will most likely rant about that in another video, but this is getting a bit long. So anyway, thank you for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, check out my socials. I have Twitter, Stereo, and Buy Me a Coffee down in the description if you want to just kick me a couple dollars, because let's not talk about the amount of caffeine I consume. And until next time, make sure to stay safe, wear a mask, get vaccinated, volunteer at a food bank, and I'll see you later. It was just the worst. Yeah.